Brent Richno here. Today, I wanted to share with you the importance of having robust moral and ethics. It doesn't quite seems relevant that much in the pursuit of success, but it might be actually one of the most important factors we can have to achieve that goal. And this is important because even though we have a rationality, trained rationality, or studying in science or deep knowledge in any of these two, a lot of things when it comes down to a betterment of human interactions, relationship, or something deep cannot just be figured out by rationality in science. It has to come from human-centric moral and ethics. So when somebody becomes very just too focused on this rationality or this scientific thoughts, and it start disregarding the other aspect of it, aspect of our being, which contains like morality and like emotions and all that stuff, then it comes down to very utilitarian point of view. It means it's like everything is cost and benefit analysis of situation where some of the things cannot be like quantified. Let's say, for instance, like love or hate or that type of things you cannot quantify, or what you should prioritize. It is really based on your personal or possibly genetic feeling, right? Like let's say there is a problems like there is a 10 people you can actually save if you choose to do so, but if you pick to save your, let's say, your siblings or son or daughter or your parent, then you would have these 10 die, right? So would you pick? If you're too rational, or then you just automatically, okay, there's only 10 people there, so you should just sacrifice your kin. This type of things are very difficult questions to consider. There might not be quite a right type of answer, but it's almost like instinctive. It depends on how you justify your action, what kind of situation you're in. You would not quite know which one to pick, and which one can. It's very difficult, and this type of problems happens all the time in life. For instance, you might get like millions of dollars, but then by doing so, you are compromising your own being. Should you take it? Does that money actually worth it? And you have to actually choose that situation, and that dramatically change your life. I'm not saying that the taking the money would make the life better, right? Sometimes you're rejecting, even though it looks silly in a rational sense, if it's not illegal, or any of that, but there might be something wrong. Then, refusing that type of let's say money might be a long-term benefit. this kind of subtlety. You have to have that robust morality and ethics. At the same time, you have to have a rationality, and it's all combined to actually make a really good judgment for your direction to the future. For me, it's like when I was younger, because of my upbringing, it's more I was more rigid towards the some sort of like right and wrong based on my almost like a dogmatic notion of what's right and wrong. And for me, that actually rigid thinking of okay, I'm so right, and the human can actually justify whatever you think right with all sorts of selective reasonings. So some of the things so you have to actually look at it in the whole thing. But then if you cover it one part, then you can actually justify your behavior or your thought process. So there is a lot of like a Mickey Mouse things you can do with your mind. So for me, following this type of rigidity in some sort of like morality based on the religion was quite simple to live. It's all or none basically all the time. It's easy for if I find some sort of principles that I really like, then I assume that then these things have to apply to a lot of other things, which is quite stretch for this to apply, but then something else to apply. This stretch, I've been really doing that for quite some time, and the problem is what I got this type of rigid morality. So it's not robust. It's a rigid morality. Is that I started seeing the world in a very skewed manner. So I'm not looking at the world in the reality anymore. I didn't notice it when I was in that position. I thought I was always right because there's some kind of authority, right? Like sort of like scripture was saying it's right, so why it's wrong? Is that the word of God, for instance? And but then the problem is like interpretation of that kind of like scripture or whatever is also the problem. It's just my assumptions, or it was probably shallow thinking. So rigid, and also what I noticed, like rigidity of your belief is always right. This type of attitude is at the same time it show your insecurity and also arrogance, right? I feel insecure because like it feels threatened if somebody's giving a different type of opinions than yours. I felt offended. That's why you have to actually have a solid this rigid moral, and this type of attitude actually is arrogant, just because you feel superior, right? Just by virtue of believing that you're right. Your attitude, the way you talk, sounds like a virtue signal, so to speak, in the modern term. And actually, it alienates a lot of people. I mean, you might get into some sort of like similar-minded people, but then just because the group of people agree with you or agrees with me, that doesn't mean that you're right. It's just that everybody could be just a bunch of brainwashed simpletons, right? So the success is above that. Success is nothing to do with this like you feel right, or I have to feel superior, or I have to cling to some sort of notion. It's all about getting to the truth, objective truth, basically, like some sort of like set of idea that the whatever the opinions you take it in, and then examine it in a neutral manner as much as possible. It's difficult, but then seeing it in the whole picture and then synthesize the ideas. Because if you start thinking one side is good, so it's a positional, right? Positional is good, and then the other side is bad, and if you assume that then the other side is, let's say, the devil, and then the other side is like angel, let's say, then you can actually create any, like even the nicest people on earth, or it's a good guy, or whatever, the like very, very good-hearted people, you can make it as even some sort of like a scum, or vermin. That's a human mind, right? Human mind can make other people like like some kind of vermin. It's not the hard things to do. But then that type of things happens if you don't have this like a robust morality, or like ethics. So my life was a little bit too awkward. It was not quite challenged in those kind of moral sense, and actually it skewed my intellectual development as well, because of rigidity. And the rigidity actually creates another problem, is it becomes the shallow thinking. You might think that I thought that I actually thought deep. Means it's like, okay, but then it's not really a deep thing. What I was doing when the morality or that kind of stuff is too rigid. It's all about just the rationalization. And once some ideas fit into the idea of what I'm right, then you start. I started thinking like, okay, this is good enough because I know that this is right. But then that right or wrong is already skewed because of the rigidity. Then I wasn't really looking deep enough, and create a lot of conflict with. It's difficult to make friends with people because you always feels like a kind of like offended or whatever, because you became weak as well. So where should we actually learn the robust morality here, right? It's not going to be in science. It's not going to be on the rational sense. I mean, it's very important to find objective reality. Otherwise, you know, everything is just subjective perception, and then there's nothing to really talk about. There is no a solid way to become successful, right? It's important, but what I'm talking about is like a robust morality. The best part about place is I really think it's the multiple sources, especially like Aesop, or like Western or even the Eastern, but then not particularly just cling to the one ideas, right? So like some philosophers' ideas, like the Aristotle or Plato's or a bunch of other philosophers, but then the Aesop is pretty good enough to start. It's pretty easy, but then you gotta kind of read what's really saying it. Like he used a lot of metaphor, so you have to actually interpret it, what that means for your own occasions, and then you have to actually manipulate it in such a way that actually integrate with the rationality, and that's the best way to do it. And also, You can't underestimate the wisdom coming from Bible, Christian Bible, especially of golden rules, right? Like do unto others what you want to be done, right? I mean that type of things is extremely important to create some kind of morality and all these kind of stories. And it's I'm not saying like it's just coming from a god or anything. It's just thousands of years of a human experiment, the experience like from all the world, right, has been going through the revisions and argument and all this kind of like the the debates and all that has been done and then created this kind of Bible. So it is the essence of wisdom, right? Like a lot of them, and historically you have to understand that kind of stuff. It's not easy, but then here and there you can actually get some sort of like idea of what's really right and wrong. Um, and you might say, hey, I don't believe any of those, right? And I can just figure it out from like a more like a rationality of science point of view and so on. The problem of that idea is we are humans and we're not set up to be rational and scientific all the time. This is fairly new, this stuff, and it takes like quite a lot of effort to do. It's a skill if you can think like this, like scientific thinking or rationality, and it's so important. But we are imaginative creatures. We actually imagine things, and we actually believe things, and we cannot get that out of our psyche, no matter who you are. Maybe you could be a psychopath, but then this prescription we're going to be quite different. But for the most, we have to believe in something. If you don't believe in something that some kind of guideline, right? Like so my suggestion is a guideline is something like old, like Aesop's story or Bible. That type of things is quite went through a lot of trials and errors already, and it's been working. That's why we get to read and then being accepted by a lot of people. And when you see that Western civilization that can create all this kind of technology, the foundation, the moral principles are pretty much from there. So why don't you take the best foundation rather than pick any other ones, right? I mean, it's important to read other texts, but then look at their results, right? Pretty much which civilization you want to live in, and pick the underlying moral and ethical foundation and learn from it. That's the best course of action, right? And so let's say if you're not doing any of this, then the problem is that you will start believing something else is not untested, which is like, let's say, scientific hypothesis, right? Maybe some professor might say something like really cool hypothesis, like as if there's a theory or theorems, right? And some sort of ideas, and the professor might be just doing it for the intellectual exercise, but then you don't have any of this robust moralities or ethic that you learn from all this like ancient text. Then what you tends to do is just all from the professor or the people that you hang out with, and then you start thinking, oh, you know what, like maybe this is true, and then you start believing that type of things. And a lot of things are pretty radical because when somebody talks that this is the truth in very modern sense, especially the ethic and morality involved, then it's not tested, and a lot of times there is a lot of assumptions, and that's how the science do it. A lot of assumption and things of nature, and this kind of stuff is very very difficult to experiment. So you basically following around the trends, and that's what you see, right? Like a woke culture and all that stuff is basically just a bunch of. I mean, I'm just generalizing, but a lot of times it's just a bunch of people without those kind of religious root, believing whatever sound great, and then when you actually implement those to the reality, it's a disaster, right? I mean, a lot of like, for instance, like child mutilations, and irreversible, and then nothing really make anybody's life better, but more miserable, rather than go into a little more in depth. I'm not saying that this like the other like side of the rigidity of like this traditional things is always good. Oftentimes it's not. That I already discussed through my experience, but that's what happens, and it's very dangerous to not have these kind of robust moralities and ethics. Generally, it's right in between from those kind of ethic morality plus the rationality and the scientist thinking. Right somewhere in the middle is the important part. So you might think, okay, what's the benefit here? Like, let's say if you don't have a morality, you can be more ruthless, right? Like, you can do whatever, if you don't have morality. Does that make you advantageous? It could be advantageous probably in the beginning, just like you're cheating something. Like in the short term, you might actually win. But eventually, we live in the society where we have to be collaborative or harmonious with others. So people will start not playing with you, like don't want to deal with you, right? And then they don't want to, and then you will start rejecting other people's idea as well if you have that kind of attitude, because you start thinking, okay, you're all that. Then you're gonna get like in a very very small world, and you become kind of like a caricature, okay? So it doesn't quite work in the long run, and a lot of people, I mean, some people are clever enough to have this manipulation going on. They can get to the top of the like a political area or some sort of like it works for some, but the majority case, like you went to a jail or prison or that type of things. So it's a very risky road. Yeah, the really the basic of morality is I already mentioned, but again, it's a really golden rule to start. Do unto others or treat others as you'd like to be treated. That type of things, and it's probably comes from very the basic of your human nature. So you should be able to get it. How about is it going to be strictly followed, or it's like how about white lies, to make it situation better? How much the lies is important? Okay, to think of it as a truth as a blunt tool. Okay, it can actually cure a lot of things, but then if you don't use it in right manner, it'll destroy a lot of things. It's like So if somebody the problem is just not that big deal, you don't want to use a hammer to fix it, right? Like you want to do a little more like use uh, like some other like really light tools. So white lie is not necessarily a white like a lie per se. I mean, you don't want it to say like lie, but then you can not say it, right? It is better, or saying that right, a little bit roundabout way means it's like if somebody is struggling with weight or something, rather than telling them like, oh yeah, you're beautiful or some bullshit, and then they get really sick later on. Who are gonna help, right? You should rather talk about the nutritions or things together, and then some people get it, hint at it the way you talk, but some people don't. But yeah, it's not really a lie, right? Like you're not really saying like, oh, this is great or anything. But then once you start kind of saying like, oh, it's like, you know, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, you gotta. It's not necessarily it's your business to really say things to somebody, right? It's hard. Sometimes it's better to just not say anything, just walk away, just be nice. Don't worry about somebody else's problems. Just focus on yours. Another important thing about having a robust morality is actually you can make the best decision in business or like your life choices. Without that, then you're actually inundated with too much data. And the data is only good for scientific things like how the rockets goes or like that type of things. But then when it comes down to how those things going to benefit the society or people, or how the humanity is going to go forward, you have to have that solid morality, because that the one you pick, um, if you can advance it, that the benefit to the others, and you're gonna get the most reward. And if that's the one that you wanted to actually connect, that's the road that you want to actually go. And it could be that it's a more difficult road, or you might go through a lot of pushback, but then if you have a robust moral, what you're doing is right. And if that right is connected to the long-term benefit of everybody else, including yourself, everybody else is looking at the short-term things, then you're the only one can see the long-term benefit, then maybe that's the direction you want to take. And then you might be the only one that get the biggest reward. And then generally speaking, the success is connected in such a way. It's not like everybody can be like this, right? It's a few people can get to a certain level, and how you're not gonna follow around the crowd to get there. It's just a moral principle that then you have, that then you follow it, and there it could be a very lonely road, but that's the way you want it to. That's actually the right way to go. So in a sense, you might be able to the kind of gather the idea that is a morality is just kind of getting along with others. Like fundamentally, that's what it is. And right, and then you're not getting into some sort of like problems by, even though you're getting like along with other people. Like if you don't have a solid morality, then you might do something really stupid together, and then you might actually get into a lot of trouble. So yeah, it's not just getting along with other people and have a harmonious life, but the more so that you're not doing some like ridiculous behavior or thought process that harm you in the long run. and then pick the best course of action so that then your lives get better as you grow older. And how you might and you can think like how you're gonna balance the um, ambitions with morality, right? Is that supposed to be morality is like ambition is something like, okay, I'm gonna take over the world or like be whatever, like become rich. That sounds like a lot of issue here. Actually, the ambition, whatever the ambition you have, as long as you have a solid, robust morality and ethics behind you, just like anything else, you can actually connect those ambition to in a very ethical way or moral way that it actually uh, the process that you get there will make it make your life a lot better, and it's get a lot shorter, fastest path that you can create for to achieve your ambition. So what I'm trying to say is, ambition itself is whatever the ambition you have. It's not good or bad. It's just the process that you go through, right? Let's say, I mean, an extreme case. Okay, I'm gonna rob a bank to get to a rich. That's not good, right? Or like, oh, I'm gonna sell drugs and things. Like, oh, I'm gonna cut corners and do some easy way out. And some of the things have a long term consequences, and it's a severe consequence. That kind of process is the one that determines how you get there, and what kind of risk you like, or are you playing stupid games, or the process is what really matters. As long as the process is good, and if you're doing excellently, then you result will just come to you, right? It's not that you imagine your result like, oh, I'm gonna be rich, I'm gonna be rich, and the thinking about it will make you go anywhere. That's not how that works. You got to take action, and then that action will accumulate into finally go there. So so definitely having an ambition and morality go yeah, go together. And you might think like, hey, having this kind of morality, I might have a disadvantage with people like kind of Machiavellian thinking, like very deceptive or all sorts, cunning people. This is an important thing about this human morality is like we have both like inside of ourselves, like we are combination of yin and yang, like light and darkness. We always have a duality here. So robust morality is not to ignore the dark side of who we are. If we really look at ourselves, we know that then we have both. And the robust morality to create, you have to. So when, if you look at the all these like stories, right? It's not about like somebody's doing all the time good. There's a lot of like a story about the murder, stealing, and all that. And then inside of us, we have all these elements of the darkness, right? So as you train or learn this kind of a robust morality, you will understand, okay, all their tricks. Like, okay, so this guy's trying to manipulate me into doing something bad, or okay, this is just a part of the tactic. That of stories. Yeah, so yeah, actually reading histories or like autobiographies really helps, just because like you can go, you can see how they navigated this type of a situation, right? History have a lot of wars, you know, uh, and how alliances and all that, all these elements like you can learn. So so you don't have to really worry about any of these. And sometimes when you have to really fight against the opponent, which is ruthless, then then you have really the time, like not time, like the capacity to actually. You might have to actually use some of the techniques, cunnings especially, or sometimes like surprise or strategic deceptions, right? I mean, if your enemy is trying to attack you, and if you be honest, right, about okay, this is what I'm gonna do next, and then, I mean, you're gonna get killed, right? So yeah, there is always something that you know, it's not like the robust morality is about being like a goody two shoes. That's not what I'm trying to say. It is that knowing when to use what. And this kind of stuff is like a lot to do with actually experience. Especially when you're like young, you might think that you figure out the life, right? You think you might know everything about how the world works, or you might think you're pretty good at the reading people, and that type of things. And, but then as you go through life, you make mistakes. Okay, and that's part of life to actually make your morality more robust. It means it's like there are more nuances. I want you to be really careful about some of the some of the couple of the techniques that like charlatans or people who got to really the top level of authorities by using the Machiavellian way without the merit, really, just to be master manipulator, so to speak. You gotta be people who are really good at this type of manipulation are generally sounds good, but then there is no concrete ideas. And because a concrete idea you can verify, right? So their idea is always hiding in the ambiguity because they don't have to take accountability. And if you see such, or if you are such, then you have to be very careful. You don't have that. You might be dealing with the master manipulators, and if you are such, then you might not you might be in an echo chamber. Means it's like you're just surrounded by the opinion that you see, and generally those people actually make you sounds great, sounds utopian. Means it's like everything is great if I do this. It's like they made themselves as a savior, but there is no practical solutions. And then if you listen to the practical solution, it's idea, like superficial idea is really good, sounds great, like let's say, oh, I'm gonna save humanity, or uh, like save the democracy, or uh, yeah, like, okay, so for instance, like people who try to censor other people, right? Like the free speech tends to just say, oh, it's just uh, prevent somebody from hurting their feelings, or they say, okay, hate not to spread, right? Sounds great, but then who's gonna do it? Who's gonna figure it out? What's the hate? Is that hate is just you disagree with? I mean, you feel hurt just because of course, it hurts, right? A little bit, like somebody disagree with things that you thought it's true, right? And then you start like censoring people just because you don't like it, you know? I mean, once you start digging into it, you know that people who are taking certain type of a position is a manipulator, right? You might think right now is like, hey, you know, it's like, well, there is actual consequences. Some people, heard their somebody's this word and then commit suicide. We're trying to prevent that. But then you got to really think about it. It's not just that word that made them a suicidal. There's a lot of other problems, and but then how important is the communication here? Like, you know, freedom of speech. I'm just using this one particular example just to make a point. Uh, if you stop that, right, in arbitrarily way, then we no longer get a truth, or we become a puppet of puppet over puppeteers, right? Whoever the authority says or some kind of news propaganda says, that's going to be the truth. And also another thing, well, we have to be careful is when somebody do something really evil, right? Like even Hitler's or like Stalin or Mao or these kind of people or Pol Pot, like when they're killing millions of people, they thought they're right. They believe that they're doing some kind of justice. Okay, that's the thing that we gotta be very careful about what we think about moral or not. And then when you're in that place, you just have no idea if you're doing it right or wrong. Even though if you're trying to if your idea or consequence like actions might actually result in thousands or tens of thousands, hundreds of millions of deaths, you might justify things, right? So, for instance, like Ukrainian wars and things like that, already like what 700,000 Ukrainian men or kids died, or like Russian soldiers also quite numbers died, and then the justification is that there's a like prevented democracy, but if you really understand how human mind works or Machiavellianism goes, it's clearly right. There's a lot of like issue with that NATO goes in, try to install in a border nation of Ukraine or that type of geopolitical things are the facts going on, but at the end of the day, there are somebody who are corrupted, just trying to grift, and for that grift, there are millions death, and that's a sad thing about this world, that just because you're moral, you're not going to be able to become powerful to do good. And especially when you have a power, it's very hard to control yourself. And it's like if you don't have a power, if you don't have money, it's really easy to say, oh, why don't you do something good? Only if you have money or power, then you know how hard it is not to abuse it. So I get it. Some people on the top, maybe these guys doesn't have much of abilities. They suck up to people, and then all this pressure from industry, and then they have to do the wars, for instance. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but to try to understand what they're trying to go through. And the propaganda has been there, like lying and all this stuff. It gets really easy, and then the higher it gets, like a lot of people get like easy to dupe. And you get this admiration from the followers, so that you kind of keep going with it, and that you can make money, you can make easy money, but then sacrifice a couple of millions of people are not quite big deal anymore. And your justification might be, that type of people's justification might be, okay, if they could believe that the population increase is a problem on Earth, which is not, but then you can justify the millions of people dying, right? I mean, it's a human mind is just quite a lot of like rationalization we can do. So that's why I'm saying, like, this is quite a complex topic, but then it's so important. Like, if you have a good morality, like robust morality and ethics, I really suggest you become the top echelon of the society. Otherwise, some charlatans are going to go up on the top of the world and then just making wars or making some sort of like a grift left and right, just because the good people just don't do shit. Okay, so yeah, but then in any case, just do something what's right. We'll make the world a better place, and it's a great place for humanity, years to come. Your future children, your parents, your families, everything's gonna get better. And if something's not right, like let's say if your parents always fight or whatever, just think of maybe some sort of the moral principles like are not quite right, and then you're probably getting some of those yourself, because you get influenced by environment. So just focus on yourself to have the robust morality and ethics. Just keep learning, and then you can actually also register from the scams or that kind of temptation, because you know that this is something's not right, and then you can always take the high road. It's not that easy, but then that's the right way, and in the long term, you're gonna reap a bigger rewards, and then not losing a lot of like money or things by grifters because of their shiny personalities or their impeccable look, right? Like wearing suits and that type of things. So really, I think that Warren Buffett said very succinctly, right? Just take the high road. It's less crowded. It's the success is really get easier and easier the more you actually be principled, because you're gonna get trustworthy. You're not gonna lies and cheat. Everybody can trust your word, and if you work together, then the other people know that you're looking out for your the interest of you as well, right? Be supportive. So it is probably the most important, probably the topic. I probably didn't say enough, but yeah, take the high road, and this goes for myself as well. It's just far be it for me to lecture about the morality, but it gets better for sure. Thank you for watching. Please share your ideas in the comment section below to help each other, and hit like and the subscribe buttons so you get notified of the next video. See you next time.